Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to our online event organized by the Czech Center New York. We will be talking about Czech glass Christmas decorations. My name is Miroslav Konvalina. I am the Czech Center New York director. With this program, we are celebrating 100 years of existence of the glass school in Železný Brod. It is the largest glass school in Europe and offers the widest range of artistic techniques. We are in New York and we have a new and special collection of glass ornaments made by the artists and students of this renowned Czech glass school in Železný Brod. These ornaments have been made at the school's glassworks using the technique of free-form glass blowing. We are broadcasting from the New York Bohemian National Hall in Manhattan, as well as from Heller Gallery in Chelsea and from Corning, New York. This online presentation and discussion focused on the design and tradition of Christmas glass ornaments is brought to you in collaboration with Heller Gallery. This gallery is recognized for its role in promoting contemporary sculpture, employing glass as its touchstone medium. The gallery is a valuable source for artists, museums, and collectors worldwide. Numerous artworks have entered prestigious public collection as a direct result of Heller's gallery exhibition and advocacy. I would like to ask the owners of Heller Gallery, Katya and Doug Heller, to speak first. The event will be then joined by Beth Hylen, a glass artist and former librarian for the Rakow of the Corning Museum of Glass, giving a presentation on the history of Christmas ornaments in the heart of Europe. Stay tuned until the end because in the spirit of Christmas, the event will be accompanied by an almost lost Czech folk carol performed by the singer and fellow Czech Stanislav Kotyza. You can post your questions on our chat and now it's time to start. But now, Katya and Doug, over to you and to your guest.
Hello from Heller Gallery. We are downtown in Chelsea here in New York, and we have the great pleasure of having the actual ornaments that Miroslav was speaking about on display in the gallery right behind us, in fact, here in the window on 10th Avenue.
On behalf of Katya, myself, and the Heller Gallery team, we want to say how pleased we are to be able to begin the holiday season with this celebration and to be involved with Corning and the Czech Center, and especially to help celebrate the school's 100th anniversary. Our association with all these institutions goes back a good number of years. In fact, it was the Corning Museum of Glass in their 1979 exhibition called New Glass Now that introduced the gallery to the incredible work being done in then Czechoslovakia by the community of glass artists, many of whom had been involved and studied at the specialized school in Železný Brod. After that exhibition, I personally was so inspired that I wrote to every single participant to congratulate them and to tell them what a positive impact they had had on us, and then received a notice back from the Czechoslovakian government saying, it seems I admire their artists and would I like to visit. I jumped at the opportunity and made arrangements, and in early 1980 I visited Prague for the first time, and the specialized school were part of the visits. And I must say it was an eye-opener in many, many ways, because the scene in the United States was quite different at that time than what was happening in the academic world of glass in the Czech Republic, which I will be the first to admit was much more sophisticated in many ways than what we had going on in the States. The States, there was a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. In the Czechoslovakian community at that point, there was a lot of skill and a lot of insight. And when the two finally met, they had a catalytic effect on both each other, and led to some great things subsequently. So in subsequent tours of the Czech Republic, which Katya had organized a number of for different museums and collectors groups, we would always make the specialized school a part of our visit. And it was always a highlight for the Americans to see how skillful and how sophisticated what was going on there actually was. We have represented artists who were initially students at the specialized school, including Ivana Šramková, Alice Vazicek, Vladimira Klumpar, and others, and of course, the great husband and wife team of the Lebenskys. So I would turn this over to Katya for a moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things quickly, and one among them is the fact that the specialized school represented and still represents kind of a very interesting place in the educational structure that exists in Czechoslovakia, or in the Czech Republic now, that existed in Czechoslovakia, in terms of glass education, because it was a secondary school, like a high school, or it is a high school, and we often struggle, just a little detour here, we often struggle with the translation of the name as a result. But it's essentially a high school that is specialized in glassmaking and in all aspects of glassmaking, as well as in the business of glassmaking, or what today would be in the United States referred to as entrepreneurship courses, because it was very clear from the beginning that the graduates were small business owners, essentially, very often. That tradition was, of course, interrupted during the communist years when everybody was employed by the state to some degree, but it is something that is a tradition that is well and alive. And I also want to say that, it has been such a pleasure to work with the school over the many years that we have. We have visited the school, as Doug alluded to, when we do tours for clients or for various institutions. In fact, we led a group of Corning patrons and staff to the Czech Republic, I think about 4 or 5 years ago now, and we visited Železný Brod, and the school is always a stop on our trip there. It is a stop partly because it represents, I think, it represents a kind of a focus on education that was put on it very early on. The school's history is closely tied with the founding of independent Czechoslovakia in 1918, in that since the early 20th century, about 1905, there was a movement or pressure put on the government at that time. The central government was that of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so in Vienna, to establish or to allow the establishment of a Czech school, meaning a school where education would take place in Czech. But because of the kind of complex and very close geography between Germany and the Czech Republic there, and Austria on the south, it was always very difficult to achieve that. And in fact, it took Železný Brod from 1905 to essentially 1923, or 20 and then 23 and 26 when the new building was built. So it took almost 20 years to achieve that. And one of the things that I think is important to understand and remember also is the idea that the school represents a part of building of a cultural identity for the Czech nation, in kind of making it a part of a nation building element. And I think that is always very interesting to see how that kind of plays out, how certain countries put more focus on culture and arts education, and that has happened in the Czech Republic. And even though since the Velvet Revolution in 1989, when the communist government fell, it has been more of a struggle, I think, in some ways, to keep the school alive. It has really risen to the occasion, and one after the next generation of teachers, faculty, and students that have graduated from there have been remarkable artists and wonderful, examples of how to lead in arts education.
I would add that there is no equivalent institution in the United States, even though many colleges and universities have programs, there is nothing as focused and specialized as the school in ZB.
Right.
And when we couldn't bring our collectors there, we brought the school here. So in 2004, we had a major exhibition of students and teachers with over 100 objects that were brought to New York. So that was an eye-opener for many, many people.
And so just in conclusion, I want to say what a pleasure it has been to, when Miroslav approached us, to see that we could work somehow to help promote the school again. And because this year's Christmas has been kind of truncated, or Christmas seems to be truncated the season because of the pandemic, we were really happy to be able to exhibit some of the ornaments that were made at the school for New York here in the gallery, so that they are visible to the New York public on the street.
So to the students and teachers of this specialized school, we send our utmost congratulations and respect.
Yes, and if anybody from the school is on this Zoom call, I just want to say, hello from New York. I know it's late in Prague right now, or in Železný Brod, it's like it's 11:15 or something like that. But we thank you, děkujeme za krásné ozdoby. Thank you for the beautiful ornaments, and we are happy to have a little part of Železný Brod here in New York. And with that, we are going to turn this to Beth Hylen, who will talk a little bit about the history of the glass ornament making tradition. And let me tell you a little bit about Beth. Beth has recently retired after a very long career from the Rakow Research Library of the Corning Museum of Glass. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Rakow, it is the foremost library in the world for anything to do with glass. If you ever have any questions, this is the place to go. Since 1978, Beth has worked in a variety of positions at the library, and she is still currently consulting at the Rakow as a part-time as a special projects librarian. She enjoys delving into library resources, as you will see, and helps researchers find answers to their questions. Hyland serves on the History Advisory Committee of the Glass Art Society and as the co-chair of the Decorative Arts Special Interest Group of the Art Library Sciences of North America. She has been a featured speaker at the International Society of Glass Beadmakers, the International Flameworking Conference, GAS, which is the Glass Art Society, the American Cut Glass Association, and the Carter Steuben Club. She's also an accomplished glass artist in her own right. She works with glass and mixed media, and her work has appeared in books, articles, and exhibitions worldwide. She has taught classes at the studio at the Corning Museum of Glass, at the Penland School of Crafts, Pittsburgh Glass Center, Pilchuck Glass School, and at Urban Glass in New York. With that, I will give you Beth, if you can log on, Beth. Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I will share my screen. So I want to thank you for the invitation to join you all today to discuss the history of Christmas ornaments in the heart of Europe. Let me first say that I am really honored to join you all. And I also want to say that I'm not an expert on Christmas ornaments. I have a fascination with the history of lampworking, and I'm happy to share with you what I've gleaned from my research at the Rakow Library at the Corning Museum of Glass, and from a trip to Lauscha, Železný Brod, and Jablonec nad Nisou in 2018, where my co-worker Eric Goldschmidt and I interviewed glassmakers and curators. So I am attracted to the sparkle and variety of Christmas ornaments. My father was an engineer at Corning Glass Works, so our tree was filled with shiny, bright ornaments, produced by the same giant machine that made light bulbs. After my family inherited my grandparents' collection of mold-blown ornaments, Santas, angels, and birds, we began collecting antiques and eventually filled our tree with them instead. I still treasure and use both of them today. I'm also a glass maker, so learning about how the ornaments are made is of particular interest to me. I'll start describing the tradition of Christmas trees. It's a relatively new tradition. Then I'll describe the birth of glass ornament making in Lauscha, Germany, and the spread of Christmas tree traditions from Germany to other parts of the world. We'll see how ornaments were made by families working within the cottage industry. And finally, we'll explore the unique history of Czech ornaments, all in just a few minutes, so I'm leaving a lot out. My story is centered in the heart of Europe. So you can see Lauscha in Eastern Germany and Železný Brod and Jablonec or Jablonec in the Czech Republic on this map. And I apologize for bungling any pronunciation today. So Germany is credited with establishing the Christmas tree tradition as we know it in the 16th century when devout Christians brought trees into their homes. Trees were decorated with apples, nuts, sweets, all kinds of good things to eat, and candles. To a certain extent, German immigrants brought the tradition to other countries, but Christmas ornaments did not become popular in England or in America until much later. The breakthrough came in 1846 when the popular royals Queen Victoria and her German Prince Albert were sketched in the Illustrated London News, standing with their children around a Christmas tree decorated with toys and candy. The court tree was copied not only in Britain, but also in fashion-conscious East Coast American society. Europeans favored small trees about 4 feet in height, placed on tables, while Americans liked floor-to-ceiling trees. Ornaments were often homemade on these early trees, but glass ornaments were soon to follow. Lauscha, Germany is the birthplace of blown glass Christmas ornaments. Glassmaking started in this mountainous region in eastern Germany near the Czech border around 1600. The village produced glass at factory furnaces until the mid-1700s, when their fuel was becoming exhausted. They worked with wood, and the surrounding forest could no longer support the industry. The focus changed to lamp working, using a simple oil lamp with bellows to supply air to the flame, thereby increasing the heat to melt the glass. Using soft glass tubing and rods made in the remaining factories, craftspeople made small objects. Throughout Europe during the 16 and 1700s and continuing long into the 20th century, cottage industries using lamp working were common. Generally, glass blowers in cottage industries worked at home using lamp working benches that were small enough to fit conveniently in the corner of the worker's room, as that's what you're seeing in figure 18 there. The father was likely to pump the bellows that added air to the flame for the rest of the family, with women and children around the table together. In addition to lamp working, the mother and older children were often responsible for finishing fine items. For example, they painted and silvered Christmas ornaments, as you see here. Buyers often traveled to Lauscha to make an order, then a representative or publisher brought allotted glass to the workers' homes each week and picked up the finished glassware. By 1762, bead making for jewelry was their primary product. Similar beads were also made in France, as illustrated in these Diderot engravings. Christmas ornaments using similar techniques were a natural outgrowth of this industry. And according to legend, in Lauscha, Germany, there was a glassmaker, a lamp worker, who could not afford the apples, nuts, or other decorations for his tree. In despair, he had a flash of inspiration while sitting in front of his glassmaking lamp. He made apples and nuts using leftover glass on his workbench, delighting his wife and children Christmas morning. Fruit and nut-shaped ornaments are still popular today. Well, we can't prove this story, but we can document that Christmas ornaments were made in Lauscha by 1860, and they were in widespread use in Germany by 1870. These early balls were mirrored internally using lead and tin alloy, and were usually round or egg-shaped. Lauscha and the surrounding towns were already famous for their blown beads that could be strung on Christmas trees. They began making more ornate decorations that were lacquered, painted, and soon blown in molds. The ornaments on the screen are German from about 1930 to 1950, as are many of the ornaments that I'll show today. Now a little more about how ornaments are made. To see the stages in ornament making, I'll go back to this earlier photo. So here you see the father with glass tubing and a woman painting ornaments. The children are probably finishing the tops and putting metal caps on, and another woman is packing the finished ornaments. Silvering the ornaments is not shown here, but it will be in this video of Eric Goldschmidt making a mold-blown ornament. And we can start the video. So most ornaments are blown in two-part molds that were probably made of silica, plaster, and clay. It's a secret formula. The Lauschians told us that it's magic clay, so don't know what it is. The two parts of the mold are controlled by spring-loaded rig, and you just saw Eric blowing into that mold. You have to have exactly the right heat. Now here he is beginning to silver those ornaments. So it's using a mixture of silver nitrate, ammonium nitrate, sodium hydroxide, and dextrose. Then the outer surface is often painted or shellacked. And after that, glitter, feathers, and other decorative elements can be applied with glue. So as you see, he's applying the glue, sprinkling the glitter, using different colors. And there's the finished ornament. And I'm pulling my screen up again. Although these bells are the same shape, decorators could use a wide variety of techniques to create distinctive ornaments. And when I visited Michael Haberland in Lauscha, he is a third-generation ornament maker, and he demonstrated his techniques for us. And I thought it would be useful to see his workshop and contemporary equipment. So you can tell this is a modern torch. He is using the mold, which comes down and blowing the glass into that mold. Here he has heated the neck of the swan, and he's blowing into it to create that curved. Sometimes ornaments are not blown with molds. They're simply done by hand like this. Here's the finished piece, ready to be decorated. And they actually use nails. And what you can't see is all of those, well, there are a few nails you can see without the glass, but those tubes just slip right into the nail. And they're able to hold the pieces apart so they don't break. And when they're lacquered or painted, they're not going to touch each other while they're drying. Those are often put up in the ceiling to await the next step. So they're out of the way, they're not going to get broken. And here is the silvering process, just briefly as Eric showed it. And this is where Michael does the lacquering and the painting. So kind of a messy process, as you can see. And here is the finished swan that he's showing to us, and as well as some of his larger Santa ornaments. Here you see a popular Santa mold with a matching ornament. So this one has a clip to attach to the tree, and sometimes the central supplier kept molds for special orders, but most often families designed their own molds and used them for generations. This one is for a reflector. The glass would be heated, and then the reflector molds are actually pushed into that heated ornament. The intricate design catches the light and intensifies the flickering light that would have been from candles. These are molds from Sigmund Gustav, whose family no longer makes ornaments in Lauscha. In 2018, we purchased them for the Corning Museum of Glass collection. So these are very typical of what would be in that black box that you saw Eric and Michael blowing into. And here we are taking a look at the ornaments. Going back to Christmas tree history, in the 1880s and 1890s, the trees became increasingly popular in Europe and America, usually trimmed with homemade ornaments. A few glass ornaments were exported, but the majority were used on German trees. One person is responsible for introducing huge numbers of German glass ornaments to America during this period. F.W. Woolworth, the 28-year-old owner of a small 5 and 10 cent store in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which you see here, reluctantly purchased one case of 144 ornaments from a traveling salesman in 1880. The ornaments sold out in a day. The next year he doubled his order and sold out again. So he'd really found a winner. Christmas ornaments and other decorations became a focus for his growing network of stores throughout the United States and Europe and England. Glassmakers in other towns in Germany, as well as other countries in the heart of Europe, like Poland or Eastern Russia, began making hand-blown ornaments to try to meet the demand worldwide. Bohemia entered the ornament market in a unique way. The town of Jablonec nad Nisou, formerly known as Jablonec, Bohemia, and the surrounding villages were a major center for glass production in Central Europe. The glass industry there stretches back as far as the 3rd century, when Romans occupied the area. From the 16th century through the 20th, this area was well known for its production of faux gemstones made of glass, beads, and jewelry. According to Petr Novy's book, Glass Ornaments, Tree Ornaments, the ornaments were probably being made in Northeast Bohemia by the mid-1800s, but this was not a common practice. Their major product was silver-plated beads in a variety of shapes, sizes, and designs, using a simple blowing machine and molds. They exported them mainly to India in large quantities from 1880 onward. However, by 1908, competition from Japan began to force Czech beads out of the market, leaving cottage workers unemployed and warehouses full of unsold beads. Since the 1840s, beads made of cut and blown glass and of single blown balls were strung together to drape, tree boughs. And now, inventive entrepreneurs created and sold unique beaded ornaments, much like these. Take a look at the rigid rows of beads here. While they have the appearance of strung beads, they are a single bead. These rows could be round, pear-shaped, faceted, four-sided, diagonally ribbed, just an infinite number of different ways they could make them. All types of beads could be made in these strung ornaments. Here, bugle beads make a spider web, and other types include drawn beads, bangles, and roquelles or seed beads. Valtrud Neuwirth devotes a book to these beaded ornaments. I've just started to learn about them, and I will show images from her Art Deco era book in just a moment. In 1913, the Glassmaking Institute in Kralove joined forces in the new glassmaking school in Železný Brod to teach unemployed bead makers how to make new products. Small vases, perfume bottles, goblets, figurines made of colored glass, and Christmas ornaments. These sessions were led by the artist Miroslav Konvalina, and as Katya and Doug have explained to me, they knew Jaroslava Bertova and Stanislav Lebinsky, who made amazing cast glass sculpture. Jaroslav is Jaroslava Bricta's father. So generations of glassmaking in the family. This is an example of Bricta's figurines, building on Czech traditions. His solid glass figurines, and this is part of what he was teaching. He usually drew the designs, and students or other lamp workers created the sculptures. In 2018, when we visited artists, they were still making figures in this style, and some of Bricta's mature work. This successful training program meant that instead of importing blown ornaments from Germany, they began exporting ornaments made by several hundred cottage workers, men and women, using glass tubing from Czech factories such as Joseph Riedel. These ornaments were particularly fine quality and were in great demand. The techniques used to decorate the surfaces of Czech Christmas tree ornaments included silvering, gold plating, painting, frosting, wrapping with fringe. In other words, much the same techniques as we found in their competition. But of course, World War II interrupted the flow of ornaments to American stores. So Max Eckhart, who started a small ornament factory in the United States after World War I, and a representative from F.W. Woolworth, approached Corning Glass Company in Corning, New York, to find a way to make American glass ornaments. Woolworth offered to place a large order for its chain of stores if Corning could successfully modify its glass ribbon machine. The machine was used to make light bulbs by the thousands, and he wanted them to make Christmas ornaments. In December 1939, the first mass-produced Corning blown and machine lacquered ornaments, 235,000 ornaments, were shipped to Woolworth's 5 and 10 cent stores, where they were sold for 2 to 10 cents each. By 1940, Corning was making about 300,000 plain glass ornaments a day and sending them to other companies for decoration. The skilled German glass blower could make about 600 in a day, which I think is astounding in itself. So here you see bulbs for lighting coming out of the machine. Imagine that as Christmas ornaments. These are some of the molds that were used. Now these are metal molds instead. And if we could start the video, this is a good time for that.
So oh, there's the video.
The bowl's coming up.
So Beth, just while you're talking, I had a quick question. 600 a day, that means that if they worked 10 hours, that would be 60 an hour. That would be one every minute. That's unbelievable.
That's what I thought. I am quoting, and I should really try to find.
I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that it's an amazing amount of skill and speed at the same time.
I totally agree with you. And these people were very motivated to get as much completed as possible. They often worked by the piece. So the more they could get done, the more they were paid. And at least in Germany, Woolworth mentioned in his trip notes to Lauscha that the glassblowers were very poorly paid. So
And apparently the whole family worked on it, as we saw. So
absolutely,
maybe that added to a little bit of the speed. Anyway, I'm gonna let you finish your presentation. I just jumped in because I was like, oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't silent. Thank you. Okay. Despite competition, German and Czech ornament making continued during the socialist era. However, it played a minor part. Okay. Ornaments were still made by hand at home and sold by a central distributor, but factories also continued the tradition of hand-decorated ornaments, as Waltraud Neuwirth describes in her books. And I love these illustrations of women working to decorate the mold-blown bulbs. So here they're silvering, coloring ornaments with lacquer, and she is holding that ornament and going like this to keep that lacquer very even as it dries. Again, you can see that movement. Here they're painting on the pieces. Another painting shot. Here she's adding glitter. And this is a glass export advertisement from 1950. So you can see they had come up with some unique designs. And one thing before I finish, there's another part of the Czech glass industry that I want to mention. Under Brücke, glassmakers began making exquisite glass figurines. Glass crushes like these became cherished family heirlooms. And I visited the Crush Museum in Železný Brod, and it is well worth the trip. I'll mention a few more sources. Cesare Toflo's second volume of his History of Lampworking was invaluable. Robert Brenner publishes a lot of books about Christmas ornaments. If you're interested, they are readily accessible. And this is a book by Langhammer about Brücke, so it's an excellent resource. And I have finished. Wanted you to know that Katya has added some resources to the chat, and I encourage you to contact the Rakow Library. It's really a wonderful resource, and everyone there is happy to help you find glass-related information. And thank you, Miroslav, Katya, and Doug, for encouraging me to explore Czech Christmas history. And I turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was really fascinating. We do want to point out, especially on behalf of the people who made the ornaments that came from the school, they are not made in the lamp-worked tradition and mold blown. They're furnace-worked and free-blown and very, very beautiful.
Yes, and we will try to share a photo maybe later, or if you aren't able to see it, I mean, obviously we are here, the ornaments are here on 10th Avenue in New York, if you are here. If not, just write to us and we will send you a picture as well. We have some questions. Yes.
Yeah, I have one comment. It's interesting that during the Beth talk, we had reactions from Železný Brod, and some of them were really interesting. So especially welcome for Wendy and Anička. These are two students who join us from Železný Brod. There is also their teacher and artist, Lukáš Schulz. So Lukáš, thank you. I just got your note that the nativity scene, which was in the presentation, was made by Lukáš Schulz's father. And also he mentioned his grandmother. She did some of these old ornaments. So it's great, you know, that we are connected, you know, directly to Železný Brod, and we have these great reactions even before midnight there. So, do you have some questions?
And I'm gonna start off by asking actually questions that were posted in the chat, because some of them have to do with technical issues that I didn't want to answer in the chat, so I said I would leave it to you. First question was, are they annealed when they are blown? You know, when they are lamp worked, Beth?
We discovered as we watched the lamp workers or flame workers, as we often call them today, they tend to anneal in the flame. Especially the Christmas ornaments are so thin, it's soft glass. And I don't know if you noticed, but both Eric and Michael just held it in the flame for a while. And you can hand anneal things if they're that thin and that small.
Okay.
So we worry today about larger pieces, but for things like this, it's not a problem.
That's very useful to know. Thank you. And then the next question was, who makes the molds and how are they made? And the follow-up question to that was, are the designs copyrighted?
I don't know about the copyright. They've been made for decades by generations of people. Christopher Rakow and various other people are reproducing some of these, sometimes using old molds, sometimes. So there are people currently reproducing them. As far as the molds themselves, we could not get that information. Literally, we asked what they were made of, and the reply was, it's a magic clay. So that doesn't help us a lot. And they did not show us any of the times we've had the opportunity how they make the mold.
But for example, the mold that Eric was working with, is that his mold, or is that a mold that he got from Germany?
Okay, that would be, he made his mold with plaster and silica and experimenting with some of the clays.
I see.
And it would be probably made a wax mold and then build the plaster and silica around that, much as you would for casting another object.
Right. So
molds have a little notch, so you can fit the two pieces together.
Right. So that means that somebody could make their own mold, right? It just won't be the same as the German or the Czech molds.
The German and Czech ones are really sturdy. And it's rare that American molds are that sturdy.
We're missing the magic clay.
Maybe somebody has to go get it.
Okay. Maybe they'll share their secret with us.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. I'm looking if there's any, there's another, do the works made, yeah, there's another question about the annealing, but we will answer Antonio. Antonio, I don't know if you were here when Beth was answering, but she basically said that they are annealed in the flame as they are made. Is that right? Yes.
That's right.
Okay, great.
And if people want more information, I'm happy to write to them after this.
Fantastic. And they can reach out to you at, can I put your email in the chat or something like that?
That's fine.
Great. Thank you so much. We will do that in a moment. Thank you, Beth. That was fantastic. So nice to see them, and so great to be able to relate the history to the current times. And is it time for a little music?
Yes. I would like to thank Beth Hylen, also from the Czech Center New York, from our library. She's also former librarian from the Rakow Library at the Corning Museum of Glass, and a glass artist. Thank you so much for your presentation. Maybe you saw me a little bit distracted because in all my electronic vehicles there are reactions. People are sending me messages from Liberec and from Crystal Valley, and so for me it's hard to communicate on all these platforms. But definitely, we have a great news that these Christmas ornaments are here not only to be displayed in Heller Gallery, but we will have limited viewing at the Bohemian National Hall, where is the Czech National Christmas tree. Unfortunately, this year we are not able, to host so many people, but there are expatriates family invited, and the rest of the ornaments will be given for free to Czech Americans and to the kids of diplomats' families and people living here. So for now, it's not for sale. Yes, we have something special for you. So I know that Doug already have other responsibilities. So I would like to thank Heller family for doing all of this, because they know how important it is to find the angle and the right people to speak about the things we are concerned. And when I visited Železný Brod, I just wish that we will have chance to exhibit some of these things, and I know that they do much more. The Christmas ornaments is not the final product. They have much more to offer, and I was so pleased that to hear that there is so close cooperation between the school and Heller family and Heller Gallery. So thank you, Katya.
Thank you, and on behalf of Doug, thank you.
And as I mentioned, during this holiday season, we have something special for you, a rediscovered lost Czech carol. The world premiere of the first US recording of A Bright Magical Night is just tonight, performed by the former Czech opera singer Stanislav Kotyza and his daughter Kristina Kotyza. I have to mention that the carol was discovered by chance by Stanislav when he was 17 years old, and he was an organist in the church of his native town, Humpolec. The manuscript dated from 1854 and was written by a local music teacher, Jan Malát. And harmony was later added by Stanislav Franz and the renowned Czech composer Juraj Filas. So sit back and listen for the first time. The world premiere is here.
Drazí krajané, zdravím vás z New Yorku. Jsem Čechoameričan, narodil jsem se na Českomoravské vrchovině v městě Humpolec. Jsem hrdý na to, že jsem Čech. Jsem hrdý na to, že můj národ přispěl do pokladnice světové hudby tak, jako žádný jiný národ na světě, myslím na počet obyvatel. Slavíme Vánoce v době, kdy celý svět se potácí v hrůze z koroňáka. Doufám, že to přežijeme, že se najde vakcína, která nás všechny vysvobodí z téhle hrůzy, které teď žijeme. Slyšeli jste nádhernou koledu? A zase, tak malý národ. A tak nádherná koleda. Rozhodně se svojí krásou vyrovná Tiché noci, kterou napsal Gruber, Rakušan v malém rakouském městečku na začátku 19. století. Tuto koledu, ten manuskript jsem našel v chrámu svatého Mikuláše v Humpolci na Kůru, když jsem tam jako mladý kluk hrál na varhany a myslím si, že svou krásou rozhodně si nezadá s tou německou koledou. Takže, drazí krajani, šťastná veselé Vánoce, hodně štěstí a hlavně zdraví do nového roku.
Thank you, Stanislav. It was Stanislav Kotyza and Kristina Kotyza. And the video will be ready next week in full HD on our website, www.czechcenter.com. So I hope you can enjoy that video in better and full quality. As this is one of our last programs of the year and due to COVID restrictions, we are not able to invite you to visit the Czech Center Gallery, where this year's Czech Christmas tree with Czech glass ornaments is on display. We would like to use this opportunity to express our gratitude and thanks. First of all, we want to thank you for your support for the Czech culture in America and for the Czech Republic in general throughout this testing year. The team of the Czech Center New York has tried its best to make you feel that we are with you and that we want to support you as well as entertain you. We hope that our joint efforts have paid off and that our offerings were to your likings. And today, in this festive atmosphere here in the gallery of the Czech Center, in the Bohemian National Hall in Manhattan, we are ready to celebrate our holidays and hopefully we will see you in person next year here in Manhattan. So happy holidays.